us clean. Don't lose fire and don't lose hope. We need you here, we need you whole. Come now, give yourself a break. Take care so you can keep us safe. Your efforts sometimes go unseen, but we know you go beyond clean.
It would help if I take myself off mute. you would think after 5.5 years of doing podcasting and live streaming, I would know about the mute button. But constantly learning and improving over here. Anyways, what I was saying and motioning in silence over here was, what's up, Sterile Processing Universe? I'm Hank Balch. Thank you for joining us for another Sterile Processing Open Mic this Friday. Last week we did a LinkedIn audio. Just a little word to LinkedIn. If you're listening LinkedIn, you need to work the bugs out of your LinkedIn audio. It's still a little bit glitchy. But I appreciate everybody who did tune in last week. We had some interesting conversations around training, documentation, competency, T-probes, you name it. We had a chance to chat about it last week and had such a blast. Decided, hey, let's do it again this Friday. So if you're not familiar with what goes on with these open mics, this is your conversation to have. We're going to roll with the flow. I'll try to be on, at least a half an hour here. If we get going and have some good conversations, we'll roll in to about an hour. So thanks for the comments here about the sound. We did get that fixed, but I appreciate everybody tuning in from YouTube. We got some folks tuning in on the LinkedIn side, and we are live streaming right now to Twitter. So how can you join us? I already see that question down here. We've got a little invite code here. So if you're wanting to join into the studio, come over to LinkedIn and then hit me up on a private message through LinkedIn, and I will shoot you the studio link to join. So I see you here, Janine. I'm going to shoot this over to you through private message, and then you'll be able to hop right into the studio with us. What's up, Harry from California? Jake, thanks for tuning in over there on the YouTube. Jason, good to see you and hear from you again. You asked just earlier, when are we doing open mic? Is that happening today? So the answer is yes, Jason, it is. Chris, thanks for tuning in on the YouTube channel and for hanging with me through the mute button there. So anybody who wants to join me in studio, just PM me through LinkedIn. Now, this is only live. If you're watching this after the fact, you won't be able to join in live, obviously. But if you're tuning in with me over the next hour, private message me through LinkedIn. I'll send you the studio link. And then you can jump in the studio, have a conversation, ask your questions, jump on top of your soapbox, whatever you would like to do over the next 30 to 60 minutes here. All right, Janice, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the good vibes over there, Chris. And good to see you there, Butch. Active in those conversations out there about multi-tray sterilization. Very interesting concept and innovation out there. If you're not familiar with multi-tray sterilization, we actually just launched a brand new expert series on the Beyond Clean platform this week about multi-tray. So there's going to be a lot of education coming out over the next 12 months about the process and the best practices, the guidelines that are currently not out there yet, but we're trying to work through those as an industry because there's more and more folks paying attention to multi-tray sterilization. It's a unique approach to packaging and to transport and to delivery of our surgical trays. So definitely tune in to Kelly's expert series over there on the Beyond Clean channel. What's up, Paul? Yeah, thanks. I enjoy the format too. All right, so yeah, we'll have some folks here tuning in with us soon, I'm sure, in the studio. But until then, I'll keep the conversation going, or at least I'll kick it off and just let you know what have we been up to this week. What kind of conversations are happening around the space that you may have missed, or maybe you've been involved in some of these conversations. So a little bit earlier this week, I actually had a phone call with an innovator out there in the disinfection space that's got a pretty cool technology for disinfecting rooms that's not UV. So we've seen a lot of conversation out there, even on the Beyond Clean channels and on the First Case channel, talking about UV disinfection. Tons of applications there, even though that technology is not that new. We're still at the early days of UV disinfection in healthcare and in sterile processing in particular. But there's other innovators out there that are working on other solutions for disinfection that don't involve light, that instead involved some chemical gas combinations to disinfect. And so we had one of those phone calls this week. And I'll just say, stay tuned. I think there's going to be some more of that coming into our space. I don't know about you, but spending time in sterile processing, that's kind of a misnomer. Right? We call it sterile processing. Clearly, we are sterilizing things, but if you look at our workspaces, I think each of us would say, I would prefer to have my department a little cleaner than it is today, especially the decontamination space. It's a dirty space, but that doesn't mean it has to be as dirty as humanly possible. Yeah, same thing for the clean side. We call the prep and pack assembly side of the department clean a lot of times, but is it really clean? What's the definition? How do we define that? Are we even testing the surfaces in our assembly area to say, are they clean? And what I'm getting at here is, are there technologies that we can be using in our own sterile processing departments to reduce the microbial load, to make it a little safer back in decontam, to make it even more safer on the clean side, to make it even more safer in our sterile storage areas? How clean are those sterile storage areas? They're definitely not sterile, right? Maybe inside the packages, hopefully inside the packages and containers. That's the goal, right? To maintain sterility after these cycles complete. But I'll tell you what, our storage areas themselves, the floors, the walls, many times even the shelves, those babies ain't sterile at all. And sometimes they're not even clean. We're like raising little dust bunnies in there, and they're multiplying day after day, week after week. What's going on, Eve? I see you tuning in through LinkedIn. So, yeah, that's the kinds of conversations. Like I said, we do have a UV expert on the Beyond Clean side of things. So you can be checking out that expert series as well if you want to know more about UV disinfection. But like I said, there's going to be more conversations coming out there around what are some other ways that we can disinfect our space and try to make our whole process cleaner and safer as much as possible. Hey, Janine, I see you there in studio. So I'm going to pull you. Give me the thumbs up if you're ready to come on camera. Good? Okay. All right. Got a first guest here on open mic. What's going on now? Is it Janine? I've been calling you that, but
Yes.
is that okay? Great.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you got it right because not many people do. So yeah.
It was a lucky guess. Hey, thank you. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thanks. One of my biggest pet peeves in sterile processing is the cattiness that often comes from women. Now, don't judge.
No. Cattiness and
Don't judge because you
SPD.
know I'm right. But something I think that I would love for people to start focusing on is it's not just our responsibility to make sure that our patients are safe and taken care of, but we also have an obligation to ourselves and to society at large to be a mentally healthy person.
Mm, mm, mm.
And the reason for that is because if I'm not addressing issues that I have,
Right.
then I'm coming to work and that's going to come out in ways towards my coworkers, which is going to affect productivity, quality of results, and ultimately affect
Everything.
patients.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely everything.
And it
Yeah.
spread like wildfire, right? So I
It
feel
does.
like, yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that's just misunderstanding through lack of communication. People hate when you communicate because they don't want to look in the mirror and they don't want to admit that they misunderstood or they saw it different or any of these things. And it's, that spreads so many problems throughout the department and it's just a huge distraction.
Yeah. So you're putting your finger on a lot of topics, and I want to dig in to a couple of those. Are you cool just hanging out a couple minutes, engaging with
Yeah.
this topic? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, you use the word cattiness. I'll just call it drama, to maybe give like
Yeah.
a bigger category. So drama in sterile
And don't mind
processing.
me. I just got off work. I'm working third shift, so this is my evening. So
Okay. God bless
no,
you.
I'm not drinking wine at 9:50 in the morning. I'm drinking wine at 9:50 at night.
There
Okay.
you go. There you go. Well, I'll have to get you back on the bio bourbon show
Yeah.
where we're drinking bourbon and then you'll fit right in.
Hell yeah. I'm
So,
there. I'm there.
um, drama in sterile processing, like you can look at that topic from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
In both, how are leaders supposed to manage that process?
Yeah.
And then on the technician side, how are you as an individual technician supposed to keep the drama to a minimum? And
Mhm.
then how are you going to manage your dramatic coworkers who we've all worked around some of those. If you haven't, you may be the dramatic coworker and
Yeah.
you may
Yeah.
not
If you
know it.
if you don't know what we're talking about, you're the one that's causing it.
That's right. That's right. And I always like to start, having these conversations. I like to start kind of at the ground level and say, hey, we know there's not a lot of training and resources out there for leaders to
Mhm.
manage these kinds of things,
Right.
so I want to just be transparent and say, hey, if you're a leader and things have gotten out of hand, maybe you've said some things you shouldn't have said as a leader. Maybe you haven't dealt with things you should have dealt with as a leader. Um,
Right.
it's still your responsibility, but I'm going to give you a little credit because there's not a lot of training and resources out there. Like, how are you supposed to do
You're
that? How are you
absolutely
supposed to
right.
manage it? And to your point, this is a stressful job. We're
Mhm.
not in some of these other jobs. Like, I don't like comparing jobs like, one's more important than others, but there's less stressful jobs out there.
Right. Like
Um,
if I was a lawnmower, I don't think I'd be as
right.
stressed as I am right now with my job. So I
Correct.
mean,
If you mess up on a lawn, not the end of the world. No one's
right, it's
going to
gonna grow
die.
back in a week and you're still gonna get paid. So
Exactly. Yeah. If you have a mess up though here, and let's say that drama is going on, and maybe like you're not even involved in the drama, but the drama is going on to the extent that you lose focus and you're
right.
not able to get that attention to detail that's required of every sterile processing technician, every tray, every instrument, every time. If you're
Yeah.
not able to stay focused, that could be a dramatic error.
It only takes one mistake one time to kill a patient. And I don't say that to be harsh
Yep.
or dramatic or create fear, but let me just give you an example, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was working in Denver, they shut JCO came in and shut one of the hospitals down.
Hmm.
There had been probably like 5 patients. Well, at first there was one patient that died. They did a root cause analysis and found out that it was coming from the SPD department. We all know what SPM is. SPM is famous for tracking every single step of every part of that instrument, which I absolutely love. It holds everyone accountable and it's perfect. So when they did a root cause analysis through SPM and found out that the mistake was actually coming from sterile processing, they did further analysis on other deaths in the hospital. They found 5 deaths in the hospital were as a result of one specific sterile processor.
Yep.
Now, stay with me on this for just a moment, because as we all know, we go through in-services. Now, when you sign those papers at the in-service saying that you attended, you have to understand something. That signature is holding you accountable for that information that is being delivered to you.
Yep.
So this person was not only terminated and stripped of all of his certificates, but he is facing prison time for involuntary manslaughter, because the hospital was able to prove that they gave him the proper training and information.
That's scary.
By having his signatures on file.
Right.
He had all of his certificates from ISHM, which also proves he knew what he was doing.
Or he should have known what he was doing.
He knows standards, or he claimed to know standards, right?
Yeah.
This is why it's important to make sure you actually do know the standards, because people die.
It's not hypothetical, to your point. This is real life. These are real lives at the end of these instruments. And, going back to the drama piece, it's very easy to lose track of that. If, a good example that also came up this week on LinkedIn is the question around decontam. Like someone said, hey, how can I manage my technicians when they find out they're going to be in decontam? They start calling in and they're not showing up that day. And so there's feedback and commentary around, here's a good way to manage a schedule, to communicate, hold people accountable, but let's just say everyone came in, but they're not happy about being in decontam, right? So now there's drama coming on and this is my 3rd day in decontam this week. I'm not having it anymore. I'm so sick of this. And again, that stuff starts escalating beyond the point of, maybe you have been in decontam 3 days. Maybe that's not the way that everyone else has had their schedule this week. Maybe that's not fair. I don't like that word, but let's just say maybe
I don't like it either, but
okay. I mean, but to your point, the focus is on, I don't like the shift assignment, and then all of this stuff is erupting around it. And then you got people, the whole rest of the staff, who their job today is to keep their patients safe in all the inspections and all the compliance steps and all the documentations that you mentioned around competencies and everything else. Yeah. That's their job. That's a focus. This drama is a sideshow, and it's not just an annoying sideshow. It's a dangerous sideshow that we cannot afford to let just continue to go. But you brought up the competency piece, and I want to call this back to last week on the open mic, because we talked about, how easy it is to miss these gaps in the in-services, right? So you gave the example on the other side that said, hey, this person was at the in-service, they signed the documents, now they're accountable. What I brought up last week is we've also got gaps on the other side that we have in-services. Johnny's not there on Wednesday when we give the in-service. And maybe we're doing live demonstrations, you're getting to see and touch and everything else. Well, Johnny comes in the next day and he's like, hey, what I missed yesterday? And they're like, oh yeah, we gave an in-service on the new instruments.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, great. When am I going to get that in-service? And they're like, well, the guy was here, yesterday, and I don't know when he's coming back again. So good luck. And I mean, a number of times that those kinds of training things go on in sterile processing in a medium-sized department every single day. You come in, there's been 3 policy changes, there's been 2 new instruments, we updated this count sheet, and the expectation is, Janine's going to remember all this.
Figure it out. We're paying you to figure it out.
Yeah, right? How reasonable is that?
It's not. It's not, but here, let me
Yeah.
address that. I want to address that and something else that you said. It all kind of comes together in the same um accompaniment that I'm going to get to, which is um when you said that you mentioned leadership. Here's my perspective. Okay, so first of all, if you look at my credentials there, the very first one is BASHM. Do you know what that is?
BASHM. No.
It's a bachelor's degree in hospital or healthcare management,
Okay.
which is not common. There's
No.
only maybe two colleges in the whole nation that offer that degree. So the focus is just the kind of stuff we're talking about right here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I mean, that's a
what
good call
I'm
out is
getting
like,
at
how do
is
you
that
equip these
right,
leaders with
yes.
what they
So
need to know? Yeah.
yes, and so I got this degree not because it's required for what I do, but because I'm trying to set a precedence in the field. My ultimate goal is to change the face of sterile processing so that it is considered a part of the OR. It is a division of the OR. It is respected as much as the OR because we're the heartbeat of the OR. We're the carotid artery of the OR.
Yep. Yep.
They can't do a surgery unless we do our jobs first. So we come first. We come before the surgeons, the patients, the rooms, all that, the nurses, everybody.
Mm.
We need to be regarded that way.
Yeah.
We need to change the respect that we get, the pay that we get, and that will change the expectations the hospital has of us, and that can be justified. So I got my degree because if I get my degree, other people are going to start having to have that degree too to
Yeah.
be a manager. It's not going to stop at having a CHL to be a manager. Now you're going to have a degree to be a manager. And in order to
Right.
be a manager, you're going to get that training. And that training is going to teach you that 50%, if you're paying attention and if you give a crap, you're going to realize that being a manager, 50% of your job is managing the relationships between the
People.
employees, each other, and with you.
Yeah.
You set the tone for the department and you set the pace for the department.
Yeah.
So if you're not showing up, they ain't going to show up. If they don't see you bust, once a month in decon, they're not going to want to do it. If
Mm-hmm.
they don't see you come in and shake their hand and introduce yourself and say, "What can I do to make your life better so you give me better results? What can I do?"
Yeah.
You are on the front lines. Give me advice.
I mean, that's key. That's key of understanding your role as a boss is not just to tell people what to do, but it's to make it
Right.
as easy as possible for them to
To make
do
you
their job.
successful.
That's right.
Yes.
To be safe, to be efficient, to be happy. Uh,
Hmm.
a lot of leaders, miss that point. They're just like, hey, like, I want the job done. I want you to show up or whatever. They miss the point that you also have a cultural responsibility to make
Yeah.
this a good, happy, welcoming place to be. And this brings us back to where we
And
started,
safe.
which is the drama. Um,
Yes. That's
you
where
gotta
I was going.
you gotta
Yes.
stamp out the drama because especially for high performers, it's one thing if they're showing up for the drama, right? Like we know technicians like that. They're like, hey, I'm just here to see who's gonna explode today and who's gonna fight in the parking lot or whatever. But your high
Yeah.
performers are the ones where they just want to come in, they want to do a good job, they want to enjoy the
Yeah.
jobs, enjoy the relationships. They don't want to deal with all this. And if the leaders especially are not controlling that drama,
Right.
your high performer is going to be like, well, I'm going to go somewhere else that does because I
Well,
didn't sign up
and
for this.
exactly. And here's the problem with it is that, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been, called into the office with regarding a dramatic issue, and so and so said you did this or didn't do that, or so and so said you said this or didn't say that, or you go in there and say, "Hey, someone's bullying me," or whatever it
Right.
is, right?
Right.
Um, how often has a manager ever done a root cause analysis on a dramatic emotional relationship situation versus why two sterilizers failed today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're hitting on it, right? Like they don't realize, well, I won't say they all, like many of our sterile processing leaders out there don't realize that part of their job responsibility
Mhm.
is the people, not just the
Yeah.
equipment, not just the workflow, not just the
Right.
bottom line of your KPIs. It's how do you manage
Mhm.
the people. But
Yeah.
um, I do want to kind of position too, because I'm kind of playing, both sides of the fence here.
Sure.
It's not our job to be Dr. Phil, to sit down and solve everyone's
Oh,
emotional issues, their family issues, background issues, whatever else. Like at the end of the day, it's our role to make sure that in our department, the
mhm.
drama doesn't come in. It's not taken away from the focus and everything else. But
Right.
to your point, uh, the
If it
best
does get
managers,
in,
okay, well, the best managers are the ones that do have that relationship. You mentioned like shaking their
right.
hands, right? And just
Mhm.
building that personal relationship. You don't have to, you don't have to be all up in their business, but the more
No.
that you know about Susan and why maybe she's frustrated outside of work and
Mhm.
why maybe she's bringing that frustration into work, like that
Right.
just equips you to be a better leader and friend and advocate, uh, for all of your individual, technicians and
Right.
leaders on the floor. So uh, that's a great call out there. And I know like we don't have time today because I like to get in this issue a lot, but that education topic that you brought up about, college certification training, I've talked a lot about that. You probably heard me and see me talk a lot about that, so
Yeah.
that's a very important issue that
Mm.
still there's not a very clear solution and roadmap for in our departments today. But I think, this drama piece, it is systemic. It's not just a sterile processing problem. It's like, it's an everywhere problem.
Yeah,
But
it's
like you
very
brought up,
systemic.
um, not everywhere is as dangerous to bring drama into the workplace as it is
Exactly.
an SPD, and that's the big takeaway. So,
That is.
um, any parting words you want to leave for us here as we move on to some other topics?
Yeah, absolutely. I would implore everyone who is in sterile processing that actually loves what they do to further their education, because the more education each one of us has, the more we can push for more money and more respect in our field. And once enough of us have those credentials, it's going to be a requirement for everyone else.
Right.
So it's going to improve the quality of our field in general. So you're
Awesome.
not just doing it for yourself and more money. I'm not going to tell you where I work, but I make about $180,000 a year right now as a sterile processor.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, it can happen when you have the right credentials and you have the right know-how and you have the right experience and whatnot. But and I'm not even into the managerial role yet. I just
Right.
graduated with my managerial diploma, so that's coming. Once if you become a traveling manager and you have a degree like I do, you can make $200,000 and $300,000 a year.
Wow.
That's some
Wow.
serious dough. And
Yeah.
if you love what you're doing and you want to get your education to back it up, it's going to improve your worth in the field.
Well, the only thing I'll add, Janine, is if you don't already have the Beyond Clean sterile processing micro credential, go check that out
No,
at
I don't.
beyondclean.net/micro credential.
Okay.
It's a great resource. It's one of those things, just like you mentioned, continuing education, continue to push yourself. I see that you already have your golden crown, you got your bachelor's degree, like you're all about the education. So this is like tailor made for you. And what's
Okay.
unique about the micro credential, as opposed to everything else that we see out there today in the space, is it's built specifically to be interdisciplinary to provide sterile processing education, not only to our space, but also to IPs, to the OR, to supply chain, anybody that touches this cycle of sterilization. We wanted to provide some curriculum for that. And the best part of it is it's also approved for 10 CEs for all your other
Oh,
certifications. So yeah, go check that out,
love it.
beyondclean.net/micro credential. And yeah, thank you for
Love it.
coming in to open mic. Uh, it's Friday. You
Thanks
have
for
to come
having
again
me.
next week.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, talk
Have a
soon.
good night. Thanks.
Yeah,
Have a good day. Night
yeah.
for me, day for you.
All right, see ya. All right, so that was Janine joining us talking about, sterile processing drama, how we deal with that in our departments. And like many of y'all have said in the comments, this is real life. This is not make believe. Oh, yeah, some departments deal with this. If you are working with people, you're dealing with drama, or at least drama is dealing with you, whether or not your manager or your leader has a plan to deal with it. So um, it is dangerous, like we've talked about before. It's not okay to let drama take over your space, to really negatively impact your team. Everybody has a bad day. That's not what we're talking about here. It's about letting that simmer and infect the rest of the shift to the rest of the team so that you have a culture of drama where then it becomes okay to emote and to bring all your baggage into the team, into the staff, and then again, impact our goal of getting safe, sterile instruments to the patient every time. So, yeah, terrific guest. I agree. We've got some questions here in the comments. I'll jump on. Anybody else that wants to join us in the studio, um, you're you're more than welcome to come in. I've got the link. You can private message me through LinkedIn, and I'll send you the studio link. You just need video and audio to join us, and you can bring your questions or comments into this sterile processing open mic. If you're tuning in recently here, and you haven't told us that you're here, I'd love to know that you're tuning in. Just drop a comment in the comment section below and let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any topic under the sun in sterile processing that you want to cover today, that you want me to answer, or if you want to join us again in the studio, let me know and I'll shoot you the link. Let me just check here. All right. So, yeah, one of our questions here from the YouTube is it difficult for managers to fire people? Great question there, Chris. The answer to that question is it depends. Particularly if you're in a unionized environment, which a lot of our departments are these days in the US, it can be very difficult to fire someone. Um, and, that brings up a whole kind of philosophical question around how to deal with problems in your department. We did a great interview with the executive director for Beyond Clean UK and Ireland, Gordon Allen, a couple of seasons ago, talking about corrective action in sterile processing and just the process. If you do make mistakes, we weren't talking about drama necessarily in that interview with Gordon, but we were just talking about mistakes. If you leave an instrument out, or if you leave an instrument in that should have been taken out, maybe it was a dirty instrument or a broken instrument, or if you just can't get it together to document compliantly, what should happen to you? Because just like we mentioned with Janine, like these errors, these mistakes, it's not like you forgot to mow the backyard. And if you're in a landscaping business and then you leave and it's like, oh yeah, like I forgot that, sorry, I'll get that next week kind of thing. Like if you leave out a critical needle holder and it's not realized in the setup for the case and they go to reach for the needle holder and it's not in the tray, or maybe it is in the tray, but it's broken, that's a dramatic mistake with potentially deadly results. So the question is, should anything happen to the technician? Or, like we've talked about many times on the show in many interviews, is it a process problem more or exclusively instead of a people problem? So the needle holder didn't get put in, but the question isn't who did that or who didn't do that. The question is, what in the process is broken? How do we build a process that it's impossible or very difficult to leave the needle holder out? How do we build a process that hardwires in inspection so that only quality instruments get into our trays and to the patient? So that's a very important consideration around firing people. Is what's your philosophy around dealing with issues? I think, and I would want to challenge leaders out there, um, if you're in that people-oriented kind of mindset, not necessarily a blame game, but it's just that's where your mind goes first is, oh man, like who pulled that case card incorrectly. I'm going to go deal with that problem. And if that problem doesn't fix themselves, we're going to kick that problem off the bus. If that's the first place that your mind goes as a leader, or the only place, that's probably a problem. You need to take a step back and think about this process perspective and say, yeah, but as a manager, have I built a process in pulling case cards or picking case cards that allows the average technician to pull it correctly? That doesn't allow for a lot of variation, that doesn't allow for a lot of interruptions in your workflow. Are your preference cards or your pick sheets, are they correct? Are they clear? Are they easy to read? Is your storage easy to retrieve instruments out of? Have you built a process that a technician can easily do the right thing? Because if you haven't, even if a particular technician, let's say Johnny, screwed up, and you know Johnny screwed up, if you haven't built a process for Johnny to do this correctly, if you haven't trained Johnny, if you haven't given him the tools, if you haven't inspired him as a leader to want to do the right thing, then it's not really right to just blame Johnny. You need to go back to the process and say, yeah, the process is broken, Johnny. Yeah, you made a mistake. It's not good to make mistakes. It's very dangerous to make mistakes in sterile processing. But at the end of the day, this isn't a Johnny problem. It's a process problem. And if it's a process problem, it's a manager problem. That's where you want to start. So going back to Chris's question, though, again, is it difficult for managers to fire people? In the union environment, yes, it is. Even in the non-union environment, more and more it's becoming difficult to get rid of people if you have to get rid of people. So I do want to kind of speak to that as well and just say, hey, there are times that people just need to get off your bus. If your department, let's just envision that you're the manager, you're the bus driver, you got people on your bus, that's the rest of your team, and you're going somewhere. You're driving that bus towards sterile processing excellence. Well, if you're getting processes down, if you're providing tools and training and education, if you're building culture, occasionally you're going to realize there's just people who don't want to be on this bus. They don't want to go to where we're going. They don't want to go to sterile processing excellence. They just want to ride and get paid and do whatever they want to do. Well, when you realize that, the best step at that point is to say, hey, maybe this is not the bus for you. It's not the place for you. We're going to stop the bus here soon. We're going to let you off at the next stop. And then we're just going to say, okay, it's been nice. It's been real, but it's clear that you don't want to be here on the bus with us. You don't want to go where we're going. So in your best interest, in our best interest, we're going to let you go at this next stop. Hey, Jason, I see you in there. We'll pull you in the studio in just 1 second. So all that to say, at times, yes, there is a reason, and there's a good reason to get people off the bus, but you want to make darn sure that your process and the communication and the expectations have been clear before you just go kicking people off the bus. And I'll give just a quick example. As a new manager, young manager, and as a new director, I was okay with kicking people off the bus. And I had one employee who I just knew, I was like, I'm eventually going to have to kick her off the bus. Like, she hasn't crossed the line yet, but she just wants to do it her way. She's been here for decades and she's just not going to get the program. So eventually I'm going to have to kick her off the bus. It's just a matter of time until she works through the corrective action. But, she's not going to stick with us. Well, I was wrong. She caught the vision. She caught the passion and excitement around certification and continued education that we had created in that department. And she became one of the primary advocates for self-educating and improvement in our department. And I was so thankful. And I just gave her a little bit more time. I understood a little bit more where she was coming from. She got a little longer takeoff, for her plane to get off the ground. And it paid dividends because all of the other old timers in the department, not necessarily old people, but just had been around in a department for a while, they saw that she changed. And then they're like, oh man, if she can get with the program, I could get with the program. I got no excuse now because like she has done it, she's bought into it, and now she's thriving. And it was a massive cultural win to convert that person instead of kick them off the bus. So even when you need to kick people off the bus or you think for sure they're going to go, still give them a little bit more credit. Do everything that you can as a leader to make sure that you're not the reason. It's not the process. It's not your communication. It's not anything else outside of this person before you stop the bus and kick him out. All right. I saw Jason in the studio. He popped back out, so we'll see if he comes back. Then he can join us for some more questions here. So let me check in on our comments here and make sure that I'm not missing anything that y'all are throwing out here. All right. Send that invite over here to Shane. He may join us. What's up, Alessandra? Thank you for joining us. It is a good morning. It's an exciting Friday out here in sterile processing land. Thanks for tuning. Yeah, and let's see. Alessandra had some comments here. Had a tech I wanted to fire for missing bioburden and mislabeling. Found out in a team dinner that he needed glasses. Once we got him the eye doc, he took off and became a lead. I freaking love that story, right? Like this is true leadership. And it's exactly what I'm talking about. If you just give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, this is not unlimited doubt, right? This is not ignoring clear signs that this person just does not want to be here, does not want to get with the program. But giving them that benefit of the doubt, maybe pushing your own comfort level a little farther down the track and saying, you know, like my preference would be just not to deal with this person or this situation, but I'm going to go out my comfort zone. I'm going to give them a little bit longer to get with the program. I'm going to communicate a little bit more. You learn things like this, that maybe that person just needs glasses. Maybe there's something going on in their personal life, right? Like we talked about with Janine, like maybe they have drama. They're not bringing the drama into the department, but maybe they've got it there and it's in their mind and they just can't get focused. If you ask them questions, you can many times find those things out. All right, got a couple of folks here in the studio with us, so let's bring them on in. Let's start here with Jason. Jason, can you hear us here?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, Ann?
Good. I'm going to bring in Shane here with us as well.
Yes, that's me.
What's up, Shane?
Morning, Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
Man, the party's all here. Look at all these beards, man. This is like, I'm loving the Beard Central happening.
I actually got told the other day that I need to start putting a snood on to cover this up a little bit, but we're a bit quiet out in unit at the moment, so I thought, maybe I can get away with not having one on, So
I love it. Well, Jason, I know you've been trying to get into the studio here for a little while. So what topic would you like to talk about?
I had a bit of microphone, couldn't really hear, had some echoing problems. Just coming back to the, the whole manager, point. I think that if you are having problems within the unit, I do think that it should be like if you're a manager, like or team leader, we have a senior. We've got a senior supervisor, and he is like the one that pulls the straws and deals everything, and it's kind of his job to get to the bottom of he's got to poke around a little bit and find out where the trouble's happening, what's happening. So it's kind of his job to deal with them situations, and obviously if them situations don't get sorted well enough, then obviously it ripples through the unit, doesn't it?
Yep.
One person, you hear it one time, and then we've got it here, this person will leave the room, and then everyone else is Like, oh my God, like, and it just gets too much. We've just had it here. There's been a lady that's left recently, and she was like just so full on. It was unbelievable. And now, for me personally, like this place is a lot better. Personally,
Sometimes that does happen. Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's the reality, right? It's like many times everybody in the department knows, except for that one person, that there's a problem here with the cultural fit. And, that's not a bad thing, right? Like we kind of get into this industry sometimes where we're like, oh man, like for anyone to leave this industry, it's like a bad reason, that they would go. No, like there's a
yeah,
million things that you could do with your life. And even within healthcare, there's a million things you can do within healthcare to impact patient care. This is not the only way. And for a lot of people, it's not the best way for them because of the cultural fit, because of the complexity of the job, the stress of the job. So, yeah, that's a reality is, sometimes you just got to get that person
yeah,
onto where they need to be
yeah.
for everyone else to better thrive.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like if you're here, you're part of the team. If you're part of the team, you all need to get on and you all need to do the same job. And obviously, if you're not doing the same job, then and you're cutting corners, that's when you get little cracks in the cracks in the unit, as it were. And that's when you can open a whole can of worms and just it gets worse and worse. And that's when. People are starting to check track and trace systems. People have got to start opening books. Who was the last one that cleaned this? Why ain't you done this? Why have you done it wrong? And it's just, and that one person that just don't care anymore, say if they're leaving to go work in a different department or a different job or whatever, and they've only got 2 weeks left of work, and it's like, well, you're leaving in 2 weeks, so why, why are you still not doing your job right, even though you are leaving? It's no excuse to not do the job properly. End of the day, you're still here for 2 weeks extra. Why are you not doing it? You're still here. If you don't want to be doing it, then doors there.
I want to come back to that topic.
Done.
I want to come back to that topic about the data, about using data as a weapon against each other. But let me go to Shane here first. Shane, is your I know you said you got a couple of topics or questions. Is it in this theme around leadership and drama, or you got a different topic you want to cover?
I could cover them all, I think.
Let's have a talk.
One of the things I was going to say, sort of around data as a weapon kind of thing. Sometimes our bullying or our environment, the person that's hard to deal with is the one that's trying to do the right thing. Right. So they're either mad because people aren't doing it the way they do it or the way they taught them to do it. Right. Or they found, I don't have to do it exactly that way. I can still do it correctly, but not exactly their way. And so then that creates maybe hostile environment that person has resentment or they don't do it like we do, or these young kids, or kind of thing. So I've seen that in my area, in my lane. But I've been trying to intake as much knowledge as you all have been throwing out from Beyond Clean. I've been just drinking from a fire hose in this position for 2 years, and so just trying to bring passion, excitement, create the knowledge storm, tell them that all this information is out there. Beyond Clean gets plugged all the time over in little staff meetings. So
love it.
Hey, go check these guys out.
Yeah. Well, that perspective about that, sometimes it is the person trying to do the right thing that still needs coaching for how to do the right thing in a way that's not abrasive.
Right.
Yeah. That's not bullying. And I think that's very important. Like, just like I brought up with Janine earlier, from the leadership side of things, like, let's give these leaders a little bit of credit too. Like, yeah, maybe they're screwing up, but it's because no one taught them how to do it either.
That's
And
right.
all across our industry, and Jason, like, you probably see this as well on your side of things. Typically what happens for these folks in manager roles is they were great technicians. They really knew the instruments. So they got to know, they built relationships, with the OR. There's a lot of trust there. And they maybe been around a while. And so they get promoted, and they eventually end up in a manager chair.
With no manager skills.
Right? It's not necessarily because they had a lot of manager skills. It's not necessarily because they knew how to lead people and how to deal with drama. It's just because they were fantastic techs. Well, that's a different skill set of being an awesome tech to being a fantastic manager. And in fact, like, you could be a great manager in a really crappy tech, like not be able to work effectively or efficiently, and like all those things, because that's not really the same skill set. Like, you want to know about the department, you want to know the workflow and the standards, everything else, but it's way more important, all of the process, the workflow, the communication, the training, and the team building. That's where managers really shine. And unfortunately, again, they get put in these positions and they're just not the right people, or it's not, they haven't been invested in or trained in the way that they should be. Let me go back here, and we got about 8 minutes left. This hour has flown by, guys. So I know we're just getting the conversation started, but tune in again next Friday and we'll continue it. But I do want to talk for a couple of moments to both of you guys on that data as a weapon piece, because it goes into a lot of conversations, like, how public do we want to be with our data in the department? Like, should everybody know what everyone else's production numbers are? If so, how do we manage that? If not, how do we protect that? And then, what do you do and how you engage those people that you identify as, as weaponizing those? And even if it's not to attack someone else, but maybe to make themselves look good. And they say, hey, like, Susie ain't doing crap in decontam. Like, have you looked at our data? I'm doing way more than Susie, but maybe they're doing it and they're complaining way more than Susie, and they're causing way more drama than Susie. And so, like, you got to sit them down and be like, well, there's some things here that are not lining up. So, yeah, in your experience, Jason, like, I know, like, you gave a specific example about someone kind of doing that on the way out, has maybe like throwing some bombs before they leave and just
you can deal with it after.
Yeah. But, like, have you seen other examples of that kind of data piece being weaponized?
So maybe not in that sense, but we do have down in our other hospital in the other unit down there, we have a guy at the moment, and he's Italian. Like, he is as Italian as you can be. Like, he walks around giving it all the gestures, and, like, he's full on.
I'm just glad you're saying that, not me. So.
Yeah, he's really bad. But obviously, I don't know if it's just the nature of him or it's the Italian in him, but he's not as fast as his co-workers.
We've got all the stereotypes coming up. So, like,
we've got it all.
I don't know anything about Italian, so.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when he's working with his other co-workers, I always get it. I went down a few weeks ago just to help out for a couple of weeks, and I had it all the time. It's lazy, it's slow, it's this and it's that, and kind of like, I've worked with the guy before, and I understand that certain people have certain work speeds. Not everyone's all the same. And to look at him, I understand that, and I kind of stick up for him a little bit with these other people, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute, he's not lazy, he's standing at a sink all day, and he's getting involved, he's brushing scopes, his figures are up, so no one can really go to managers and say, oh, check his figures, he's lazy, because actually, if you go and check his figures, he's washing scopes, he's putting through a machine, he's getting work done. but the people that are complaining about it are too busy like complaining about it to not actually do any figures. So it's like, so yeah, I understand. I understand all that. But then that comes in again as the manager's job to like kind of intervene and go, hold on a minute, you know. So it's kind of back to that again, isn't it? Really.
And like Janine brought up earlier, it's that much more important for managers and directors to be present in the department, because to your point, Jason, there's going to be things you see that are not going to show up on the data.
Yeah.
If you're in the department though, and you see all those extra activities, that someone's doing, and again, like I'll go back to the cultural piece. If this Italian, like in my case, there's a Filipino guy that worked with us that, as far as culture was concerned, he was the epicenter of a happy department on our team. When he was there, everyone was happier. When he was not there, everyone was less happy. So like I knew if he's here, like he may be a little bit slower than other people, but I don't care. It was worth the morale to the team to have him there and happy with us because everyone else was happy. And yeah, that's not going to show up anywhere on your data. It will though if you're present as a manager.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Shane?
Yeah, I think I haven't fully developed how I'm going to use a dashboard kind of thing to put up data like that. We recently transitioned from paper to tracking, so but they can see their own, right? And even if you give them their own report card and you don't make it public, we know that they're going to talk about it.
Right.
I did 25 trays, yesterday. But then we also have to figure out how we don't use it as a weapon. We want to give them a report card, right? Yeah, here's your 25 trays, but you had, 4 trays that had either missing locks or missing filters or, something.
Yep.
I think it would be maybe a little beneficial to have the numbers up there to see how one person stacked up to another. But then it could also be, a detriment, to even if you're not saying, hey guy, you're failing, you're much slower than everyone else here. They could take it as that, that's the thing with communication is that what's perceived is what's reality, not what was wanted to be given. So,
from the leadership side of things too, this goes back to motivation and understanding that different people on your team are motivated different ways. Like for some people, seeing those numbers, like I want to be number one.
That's right.
I want to be top of the list. This is going to drive me to improve myself. And maybe other people's like, I don't care what those numbers say. I mean, I literally whatever, I'll be at the bottom. I don't care because I know what I'm worth and I know what I'm doing. And so I think whatever you do, to your point, if you do post them, you have to realize this is not the golden bullet to solve all of your productivity problems or your quality problems. You're going to have to navigate all these individuals, all those separate motivations, and actually do the hard work of managing people. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right? So Shane, as we wrap up here,
triangle of truth here.
Yeah, triangle truth. I love it, man. Yeah. So if you're watching, you're not familiar with that. A couple days ago, we posted on the blog, and there's articles on the go. If you go to the Beyond Clean podcast feed, that we talk through the triangle of truth, and just a great, simple little tool about identifying like what's going on in your department, why is it not working, and not jumping to assumptions to answer that question. So yeah, that's a good call out. I want to close with you though. We had a question here from Chris on the YouTube channel about your cap. And his question is, did you have to buy it or did the department provide it? Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you bought that.
I did. I guess I took over this department 2 years ago, and for Christmas I got all the staff members hats, and I made this one put the vinyl on myself, but I put everybody's name on them and different things. So I bought it, but other than that,
great. Yeah. Well, I see Jason come back in with us, but Jason, you're just in time for me to say goodbye. But I want to let you back in the studio.
I pressed wrong button. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I really appreciate both y'all's time and everybody tuning in for open mic this week. We're gonna do this again. Maybe not every Friday, but I want to continue these conversations. We just have some great live conversations around the topics that matter to you, what's really going out there in the space. And don't just because we're going to turn this off doesn't mean the conversation has to end. So get in that comment section, keep asking questions, connecting with folks that you've seen on here. And as we say around here at Beyond Clean, until we see you again, keep fighting dirty. See you guys.
Thank you.
See you,